I told him the other day, she's still on the council to approve it. I don't know.
So they pulled that out.
Well, that must be how you turn it on, because there's a light on now. Testing 1, 2, 3. It's on.
place. Everything's on the quiet.
We have to hit that one. And now we're on. We're live.
Oh,
Oh, cool. Okay, folks, let's call this august group of distinguished individuals together. So welcome. Let me start off with finding my agenda. Okay, we'll wing it. We'll start with the purpose statement for the committee. The purpose of the Citizen Advisory Committee, the Pikes Peak Rural Transportation Authority. Primary objective of the CAC is to ensure the capital maintenance and public transportation projects and programs approved by the voters during November 2nd, 2004 and November 6, 2012 elections are accomplished with PPRTA funds. This committee reports directly to the Board of Directors. Any questions, challenges, otherwise criticism? Hold it to yourself. Thank you very much. Okay, Reb, let me see your agenda, please. I left mine on my kitchen counter. Thank you. Okay, so we have a quorum, and right now all the members vote, and we're watching for we're -1, and then we'll get to the point where their alternates can't vote. So, yes. So first of all, being that she's just getting settled, I would like to welcome our new members. And I had met you before, but it was one time, so I apologize. So we have Ann Esch from Green Mountain Falls. Welcome. There's a little button there with the voice thing. Would you like just to say what you're doing, how you're doing, and all that kind of stuff?
Second icon from the left.
See, it's on right there.
oh, the voice. Oh, and talking. I'm sorry that I was late.
It's okay.
We misjudged the traffic. I'm Ann Esch, and my great-grandfather built 2 places in Green Mountain Falls 104 years ago. So I spent all my summers there. My husband has just retired from teaching biology at Wake Forest University after 53 years. And we are currently renting an apartment in Woodland Park.
Good.
Because our cabins aren't winterized. But they asked me if I'd like to represent Green Mountain, and I said I would.
Awesome.
So, thank you.
Well, welcome. Welcome back.
Thank you very much.
It's a little bit different than North Carolina.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I hear it. Mr. Stephen Hart from Manitou.
Well, somebody asked me a while ago if this was my first chance to sit on one of these kind of boards. No, it's not. And it didn't get paid then either.
So, but my background has been working with the government. I was with the Forest Service as the state fire manager for the state of Colorado and the fire chief of Manitou for 15, 20 years almost. So that's been my background, and I was telling them that when Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments first got started, I was one of the first to sit in the chair and listen to the things at the old county building on Bermho. And I'm retired, and I drive race cars for fun and build stuff.
Oh, cool. Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. All right.
If I might amend what I said earlier, the push-to-talk button is the one in the middle, just slightly right of center. And
A face with little lines on it?
yes, and the system only works if we have 8 or fewer of the mics on at one time. But I'll leave this one on and probably leave that one on. So,
Okay. So that's a crowd control thing, so you can't all talk at once, right? Yeah. I like that feature, yeah. All right. So item number 3 on the agenda, any public comment period for items not on the agenda? Oh, I'm sorry, I got to approve the agenda, I'm sorry. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Cheryl?
Second.
Second? Tom, somebody? Yes? Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now, public comment for items not on the agenda. Anyone of the committee? Anyone in the audience have any public comments?
Am I on the committee?
You are.
Well, one thing I'd like to, the Board of Trustees met yesterday in Green Mountain Falls last night, and they're hoping to get their old microphones up there for our meetings.
Oh,
And I just wondered if anybody knows anything about that. I thought I'd
Rick-
bring it up.
Rick should be able to answer that.
we're aware of the request. We're just letting the new microphones work and for us to be happy with them before we give away our old ones. So, yeah, I just got just before this meeting, I got an email from Jason Wells.
Okay,
So
good.
I think Manitou has expressed an interest in half of the 14, and Green Mountain Falls has expressed an interest in the other half. We're just settling in and making sure that these are working well before we give them away. So we have the requests on hand
Okay.
for both Green Mountain Falls and Manitou.
Being hard of hearing, I really appreciate good microphones.
Yes,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right. Do I hear motion for approval of minutes of the May 2nd, 2018 meeting? Joan?
So moved.
Second?
Larry, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Financial reports. Ms. Beverly.
Good afternoon. On page 1, you can see that we received the March sales and use tax, and it was $8,455,000, and so that was $384,000 above the March budget. Year-to-date, we're $680 above the year-to-date budget, but look at February and March. February was $364 below budget, and then it flipped around in March. So some of that might have just been timing as far as when the vendors report their sales and use tax. So that's okay. We're aiming to get $10 million above budget in order, well, it's 9 point something, in order to get the $5 million for the I-25 project. So I don't know if we're going to make that, but we have a few things coming up that'll help the senior open and a couple of other things that we didn't have last year. So hopefully that'll make up for a lot of sales and use tax. But on the second page then, for the month compared to last year in March, we're $459,000 above budget. So we're $903,000 for year-to-date, or 4.06%. And the other pages just put the sales and use tax into a financial statement format, and then also have the expenditures by the line item in the budget. And then for the new people, page 6 and 7 compare the first capital projects for the first 10 years to the total budget for those capital projects, and you'll see a lot of them are, the difference is zero. That's because they're done and they met the budget, and then there's just really only a few per Colorado Springs and El Paso County left. And the member governments will be talking about that today and giving you an update on those projects. And then page 8 through 9 there are the new 10-year capital projects. And there's not a lot of expenditures yet compared to the total project budget on those. But if anybody has any questions either today or anytime, just, let me know. You can always email me. So are there any questions?
Any questions for Bev on the financial report? Okay, Rick? The next one to the right. One.
Oh, that one. Okay. I was just wondering, this always confuses me when it says that this project here is 50% done. That's expenses.
Right.
How do we find out where they are with the project itself?
Well, you'd have to find out from the project managers. This is just a financial tool.
Is there any way that we can kind of get a report from the different member agencies on where they are with projects? For example, the one that I thought about was the Union Boulevard continuous. It shows that it's not hardly paid for, but it's done for all practical purposes.
Well, and that one's really complicated because half of that is in the first 10 years and half of it's in the last 10 years. So it's more done on, they used up the first 10-year pot first. So that one, you can't look at it that way. But Mike, I'm sure, would be able to give you an update on Union Woodman.
Well, I'm talking about all of them. I underlined a couple of them here that we know where they are as far as their invoices coming in and being paid. We have no idea where they are with the project itself.
Okay.
You're the wrong person.
Okay.
Which may give some info.
Okay.
There in this month.
Okay. I was looking through those and saw a little bit. I just kind of get confused about where we are with a project when we know it's not paid for yet, but it's done.
And if I might, as you mentioned, what we see in these reports reflects what's been invoiced by the member entity in terms of percentage.
Right.
And so I think we have a report in this group that kind of talks about some of those older projects and their status. But I have had the same concern in the past is a low completion factor, but yet when we drive through there, we see so much of it done. So I guess what I've been told in the past is they're just closing out things, waiting for things to finish, and they haven't invoiced yet.
Right, and at the end, there's a lot of retainage that just hangs out there for a long time until they're completely finished and all the items on the list, like a punch list, are done. Now, I can get rid of the percentage on this report, because if it's a little confusing, that might be the
No, you're
thing to do.
misunderstanding.
Okay.
I don't mind the percentage in this part here. I enjoy that.
Okay.
I appreciate that, but what I'm looking for is something that tells us that, how physically we are with the project, not how much we've been invoiced for and how much we've paid. I like that. What I'm looking for is where are we on a project? Are we 50% done, 60% done, 100% done, and that sort of thing. So that's what I.
So in the quarterly reports that come out, it shows and gives a description, but it doesn't necessarily give a percentage from a construction point of view. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah.
So we know the percentage from an invoicing, but not from a construction thing. The details are in the quarterly report. Maybe that's the missing link in some way.
I don't know if they're able to give you a percentage in that.
Oh, yeah.
Because it would be like certain parts of it would be 100% done or whatever.
Rick?
Yeah.
I'm not recalling that
any of the member government staffs have ever reported in the way you are requesting. So if the CAC would like to start having that type of reporting, then I think the CAC would need to ask the staff members, because Bev and I aren't going to be able to, particularly me, who goes out and drives things, I'm not going to be able to look at something and declare that 60%. That would have to be up to the member governments to offer that, if you want that kind of reporting. And by the way, we now have our 18th member, so we have to have one of the alternates, and on the rotating basis, Tom Rogers. Yeah, you're welcome to stay and discuss, but please don't vote.
I've got a doctor's appointment that I have to go to at 3, so maybe she's straight top 5
I'm going to try to be finished by 3. Yeah. No. I think Ed brings up a point, but I guess, as always, I'm sensitive to the demands we make on the staff and the value add in terms of our recommendations or decisions or information. And so could we, Tom?
Well, I'm wondering if this isn't a situation where it might be valuable to have something like a stoplight chart where you list where you're at for engineering, where you're at for construction, where you're at for closing up the deal or whatever, and just red, green, yellow, are you on schedule, you're about done, you're done, kind of thing. And fairly simple, and figure out what categories we want to look at, because when I look at, for instance, the El Paso County charts, and it'll tell me, design is about done. What does about done mean? Is that 80%? Is that 51%? I don't know that. I just know that there is a description that's never been defined.
And my response to that, does that affect, how much extra work does that create on the staff, and does that really affect anything we're doing? And so, that's always my response.
To answer the two things from my perspective separately, one, I think they already know the answers, they just don't put them in our format. So I don't know that we're creating more work, but we need to be sensitive to creating more work. But
Right.
if they already know the answer, because I'm sure in their reporting, they're keeping track in their own mind or in their own reports where they're at on these issues.
Okay.
We've got engineers in here. What are you thinking? Is that something you would keep track of anyway?
Yes. When I managed the PPRTA projects for the city, I knew where we were percentage complete of each phase.
Yeah.
Based on current funding for that line, right?
How much of it is spent, what the percent of the budget was spent, and what the percent of actual was.
Right. What do you guys think? You want to get staff input, Mike?
I don't think it'd be a big deal to give a status. I don't want to speak for the county, but, like it's been mentioned, we do that anyway, so it wouldn't be too much to put a summary, just kind of where we're at on the design, where we're at on the construction.
If that information is readily available and it's not that much extra work to do that, now the question would be, where do we put it? Bev's report is in the financial, and that's based on invoice, so it wouldn't be that wouldn't be the appropriate place to put it.
You know what, why don't I suggest we have the change order, we can log, we could just add a project status, another report.
I would think quarterly reports is where it would belong.
Yeah, in the quarterly report.
We want to do quarterly, we can
Yeah.
add more detail, we can do that.
You do that? Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is everybody in agreement with that? Anybody have any opposition or further discussion? Okay.
I do. I just have one. Excuse me. Sorry, Scott. I'm wondering, why is it possible to put that back on to the developers or the people that are doing the projects themselves, that they need to submit something to us on a quarterly basis as to where they're at?
No.
No, I don't. I think filtered that and appropriately annotated and whatnot through the member government would be the most appropriate way to go with that.
Okay. I'm just thinking, just to make sure that everything is very transparent, that we know from the construction.
That's a
folks.
level of detail we've tried to stay away from.
Okay.
In terms of individual contractor data. Our contract, if you will, is with the member government, and they're subs to that government, and so anything coming to us and subsequently to the board, in my opinion, should be from the member government and approved and stuff versus something raw coming up from a contractor.
Okay. Or even they could submit that to the
I'm sure
staff,
they're
but-
reporting that anyway, like they said, so they're getting that anyway.
Okay.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, we'll move on. Okay, thank you. Budget amendment.
Okay, so for new folks here today, every year after the audit, we have a budget amendment, and what we do with that is we bring forward the actual unspent dollars per line item. So at the beginning of the year, at the end of last year, we had a budget for 2018, and it had estimated carry forwards. Yes.
Mr. Chair, real quick, just on the cover page of this, Bev, I assume that it's supposed to say the 2017 actual net tax revenue, not 2015?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
It was a
Just making
typo.
sure.
Yeah, in the memo. I noticed that yesterday. So bringing forward the 2017 unspent dollars by line item is what this amended budget is for. So then there's an actual amount that each line item cannot exceed. Usually during the mid-budget amendment, we might have additional revenue that we add. But this year, we're not exceeding the budgeted sales and use tax by enough, so we're not going to add any additional revenue this year. So this one's a pretty straightforward budget amendment. And on page 1 are the calculations to show what fund balance is coming forward. So last year, we were under the $100 million budget for sales and use tax net by $835,000 about, and that's number 3 on page 1. And then we had interest earnings almost $1 million ahead of budget. And so that offsets our sales and net sales and use tax being under. Administrative and ballot measure expense savings, so we had a budget of $732,000 almost, and we spent $628,000 approximately. So we saved $104,000, and that always rolls back in to this calculation to be allocated 10% to transit, 35% to maintenance, and 55% to capital. So that's what's going on there. And so we had a net revenue carryover of $258,000. In transit and fare advertising revenue was ahead of budget by almost $163,000, and that goes directly carry over to transit. That doesn't get allocated, but the $258,000 gets allocated. 10% to transit, 35% to maintenance, and 55% to capital. And then number 12 through 17 is where it gets allocated to the member governments, the capital portion, and 18 to 23 on page 1 gets allocated the maintenance portion to the different member governments. And then what they do is they take those dollars and distribute them where they want to for this budget amendment. And it's not a lot of money this year. Some years it's a lot of money. So pages 2 through, I think, 4, I just bring forward in the first column, and this is an income statement format, the unspent dollars that were budgeted last year per each line item. So public transportation, that's transit, had $17 million unspent. And then maintenance was a total of $10 million, but it's broken down there on page 2 by the member governments, and then the capital sections start. And so this is just like a tally then that helps us figure out how much they have per each line item. So then the member governments decide where to put the 2017 revenue carryover, which was from page 1, where they want to allocate that. Then the third column, which we're not going to have any additional 2018 revenue, so that's 0. And then we take the 2018 original budget, put that in the next column, and then there's something called line item transfers, which is when a member government, either previously or today, is asking for a line item transfer to move money around a little bit between capital projects. And that's, if they're getting started faster on one project where they anticipated they might do more on another project, they'll move money around temporarily. It doesn't decrease the other project's total budget. They're not really taking money away from that project. They're just moving money, just a timing difference for this year. So if you see something like, say, Academy, Bijou to airport reconstruction, they're taking $400,000 and putting it into Academy Fountain to Proby Parkway pavement reconstruction. That's just a timing difference. They're not really taking that $400,000 and reducing the scope of that project. They're just getting started on the other one sooner. And so that's kind of something that some people are a little confused about. We don't want you to think that. So then the total is their total budget by line item for those pages. Now
May I just clarify? So the total would be the 2018 amended, the 2018 expected budget for that particular project, counting all rollover, counting everything.
Right.
So if we wanted to know what the current funding for a particular line item or a particular project are, it'd be the far right-hand corner, and that's just for 2018, not the total project cost, right?
Right.
Okay.
The total project costs are estimated in my financial statements on the last 4 pages. Those are for capital projects, and that gives you an idea of what they think they're going to spend in total. Although some of those that haven't changed since 2012, they're going to change. They're going to go up. But they don't know what they're going to go up to yet. So I hope that's not confusing you too much. So with that, I'll have the member governments come up and speak to their individual budgets. Is there anybody here from Transit?
Brian's here.
Brian, we're going to talk about the budget? Okay, thank you. Brian will start.
I'm sure I really volunteered,
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Brian Vitulli, City of Colorado Springs, Mountain Metro Transit. For our 2018 budget amendment, we're looking at, as Bev said, quite a bit less than we did for the 2 amendments from last year, but we'll gladly use the extra dollars. So we're looking at additional revenues of $223,646. What we intend to do with that is to make another allocation of about $30,000, a little less than $30,000 for our specialized transportation services. So those are the above and beyond specialized transportation services that we fund, Silver Key, Amblicab, Fountain Valley, community intersections. And then for our fixed route improvements, we're looking, and this will be contingent upon public process, which will likely happen next January for the spring service change. We're looking at adding Sunday service for either routes 22 or 23. And I may have a map here. Route 23 is the route that we started several years ago. It's what we consider our job access reverse commute route that serves Platte and then the Powers Corridor. That currently only has daytime weekday service, weekday evening, and Saturday service. It doesn't have Sunday service. And we've gotten a lot of requests for full service on Sunday. Route 22 is another route that serves from the Citadel Mall down to the southeastern part of Colorado Springs at in the Academy Hancock area. That also does not have Sunday service. So either of those are good candidates. Route 23 ridership on Saturday is a little bit better than 22 ridership on Saturday, but we need to look at some more data before we come up with a proposal. In item B there, under 2, we're investigating some alternative service models rather than a large fixed route bus for some of the areas that are lower ridership, lower density, kind of really hard to serve with transit. And microtransit is kind of it's something new that some agencies are looking into and getting into, where you can combine your fixed route service with your ADA service. So you can still pick up seniors, disabled passengers, but with sometimes a smaller vehicle, sometimes, it could be something like a deviated fixed route where there is an established route, but there's time built into the schedule that it could serve a bigger area, like a larger neighborhood or something. So something alternative to what we're running now. It could be lower cost. It could serve those low ridership areas a little bit better than a route which requires people to walk to it. So what we're looking to do with some of this allocation is to there are several vendors who are interested in working with us to kind of develop and analyze our system to see which areas this would be a good fit for. So this would kind of be a planning study, and then we're looking to probably put the implementation of whatever comes out of the study into our city general fund budget for 2019. So if we could, realize some savings with a different service model and some additional city general fund dollars, we could implement this next year.
Brian, would the timing of that allow the inclusion of the results of that survey to be included in that 2045 plan?
Yeah, I think, we could spend some of this RTA budget amendment on the study and the analysis of what we want to do. And we're already into our, I'll speak about this later, we're into our fall service change public process coming up the end of this month. So it most likely wouldn't be implemented this fall, but most likely by the spring of 2019. So we could use some of the money from this for the analysis and then do the implementation early next year.
But you would be able to include that in your long-range plan, though, if
Right.
will the timing be good enough?
Sure, yeah.
It could.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
All right, are there any questions?
I heard you say that any additional funds would roll over to the city's general fund?
No, we're going to put a request in our city general fund for the implementation of this microtransit.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Yeah, sure.
I did have a question. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Yeah, can you talk to page number 7, the reallocation of the capital expenditures for the fleets? Looks like there's some changes there, line item transfers there related to capital projects, particularly the fixed route vehicle replacement. Looks like you're adding funds there and taking some out of others. Can you talk to that?
The only thing that I can say is that we've done a fair amount of van pool vehicle replacements. We've somewhat right-sized our van pool program. We are a little bit more efficient. Our ridership is going up, but we are operating a smaller number of vans now. So I think that's one explanation. We don't need more van pool vans for a smaller program. Fixed route vehicle replacement. Obviously, that's where the need is. We're getting in more vehicles this year. We have an order in for 2019, and we're seeking funds for additional vehicles in the outgoing years, 20 and 21. Because we have a vehicle replacement program, and we have vehicles to be replaced in each of those years. So some of these vehicles, we are seeking funds for our electric, 40-foot electric buses and the infrastructure that goes along with that. So that could be why there is an increase in fixed vehicle replacement line item.
And the ADA, paratransit vehicle replacement, you would not anticipate any negative effects with this line item transfer on the ADA service?
Right, that is correct.
Any other questions for Brian on their amendment? Thanks, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
City of Colorado Springs. Welcome, Mike.
Mike Chavez, City Engineering. We, again, the numbers aren't real big. So we had $100,000 in capital to allocate, so we put that into our missing sidewalk program, just because we've got quite a bit of demand for that. And then transit covered theirs, and then in the maintenance side, we had $64,000 that we just put into our maintenance pool, and it's going to go to bridge maintenance.
Okay.
And, I think that's it.
Any questions for Mike on the city's amended changes? Thank you, Mike. County. What's his name? I can't remember.
Dennis Barron. I'm here on behalf of Jennifer Irvin. She's at a conference today and wasn't able to attend, so she asked me to present on her behalf. We had even less to allocate than the city. We had $40,000, and we chose to put that back into Mesa Ridge Parkway. If you remember earlier the year, we transferred funds from Mesa Ridge to fund budget increase in the West Colorado Avenue project. So it's the initial payback contribution for that. Similarly, in the maintenance, we had $25,000 additional revenue, and that was put in the maintenance pool. So if there's any questions on that, it's pretty straightforward.
Any questions for the county and Dennis? Okay, thank you, Dennis. Manitou.
So Manitou had even less for maintenance funds on page 14. They had $768, and they'll spend it in their regular maintenance program. Let's see. Yeah, something. So the Manitou Avenue West End Drainage Improvement Project got the 2017 revenue above budget of $1,207. So, and that's what Shelley outlines in her memo on page 14 and 15.
Any questions on that? We'll just go to Green Mountain Falls. They had a whopping, what, $156?
Right. So what they did, though, was a little bit different. They're going to get started on Belvedere Avenue. So they transferred, this is just a timing difference, though. It's not like Stilling Basins is going away. But they transferred the money that they had in Stilling Basins over to Belvedere Avenue so that they could get started on that. And I think El Paso County is going to help them with that. So.
Okay. Any questions on Manitou? I think Rama had $1. No, we're
Oh, boy.
$19, yeah.
And they're also going to get started, or actually just complete their project, their capital project, with the help of El Paso County also this summer. So that sums up the budget, except admin expenses don't change at all. So if we spend less than that, which I anticipate that we will, that'll be rolled over next year. And then the last page, page 20, is the reserve balance, and that didn't change because revenue didn't change. So are there any overall questions?
Any questions for Bev on the budget amendment? Yes, sir.
One's an editorial comment, or two, I guess, for editorial. On page 1, line items 13 through 17, the column heading says that they're percent, and what's in there appears to be decimals, not a percent.
Okay.
And other question on that particular item is at the top, it says 2012 project percent.
Yes, and that's correct, because that's based on when that was established by the member governments.
Okay, but those numbers appear to match the percents down below.
Well, it's pretty close. It's not exact.
Okay.
That's how they did their allocations when they came up with their A and B lists. So when we started allocating capital funds, we then allocated it according to how they established it.
Okay. Am I correct that those are not percents?
Yeah, I'll just get rid of the percent. Those are exact decimals that they used, and I wanted to use the same ones that they used when they established their lists.
Okay, any other questions? John?
Not a question. Can I make a motion?
You may.
Okay. I would move adoption and recommendation of the 2018 budget amendment for 2017 carryover to the Board of Directors.
Second.
So we have a second and a nomination. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Did you hear all of those ayes? Because there were only 2 microphones on.
Some of us don't need amplification.
Oh. Okay.
Some of us need hearing aids.
All right.
New batteries,
boys,
baby.
Boys and girls. Okay. 2018 capital maintenance and public transportation contract, City, Colorado Springs.
Good afternoon, Mike Chav, City Engineering. We've got a few items, contracts to go over. First item we're going to talk about is actually an agreement with the developer that has to do with the Centennial Boulevard extension. And do I know how to drive this thing? How do you get this? Where's the arrow?
It's the same place the arm.
When you said you don't know how to drive it, I was about to say.
That's why I sit here.
I can't see. Part of the problem is I can't see.
All right, some help.
All right,
I'm not sure that I can help either. Is it in the show format?
I don't know. There we go. Okay. Okay. Who did this? Did I do that or someone? Okay. All right. So the project is to extend Centennial from Fillmore south to Fontanero, and a good portion of it was built by the VA, and they kind of ended before Van Buren. So we just finished. We finished that segment of Van Buren this year, and so it's connected to Van Buren, but Van Buren's closed off per agreement with the neighborhood. But we wanted to build that road so that these adjacent properties could be developed. So there's basically access for development, because this development's been sitting waiting on the road to be completed. Now the segment from Van Buren to Fontanero has been on hold because this property that's owned by MVS has an undocumented landfill from the 50s and 60s, I believe. And so this corridor has been in the city's master plan, transportation plan, since 1980. But with the dump there, we really couldn't do anything. So in 2012, MVS had a concept plan for some development, and they dedicated the right-of-way in 2012 to the city. They also had a VCUP, which is a voluntary cleanup plan through the state, that that basically they'd be able to clean up the area and bury a lot of the trash in a kind of a certain location. That had like a 5-year timing, and the agreement had stipulation that when they cleaned it up, the city would come and build the road. So unfortunately, the economy tanked, and the developer really didn't have the money to do his work, and we kind of got into it. He was asking us when we were going to build the road, and we said, well, when are you going to clean up the site? And kind of went back and forth for a few years. So in about in about 2013, we started talking with them and trying to figure out what we can do. So basically what we've done, in brief, is we've come up with an agreement that we are going to pay them the dollar amount of what it would cost us to grade the road from where it sits now to our subgrade, and also pay for some easements that we would need to acquire if we went in first, and then there's about $300,000 for a utility transmission line that has to be relocated. So this is all based on the premise that if we went in first and cleaned up what we needed to do to clean up in our right-of-way, and that would require some additional easements than what the right-of-way that's dedicated, and moving the pole, and then just the general mass grading to get the road down. We think that cost is about $2.9 million. And I'm thinking it might even be more, because we would be cutting slopes, and I can't imagine that the state would just allow us just to cut and leave that trash on the sides there. I think they might require, if we had our own cleanup plan, to go further. So that 2.9 is probably, the minimum. So what we came up with them is, with MVS, is that if they clean up their area and then grade what we need, and we pay them for that quantity, which I think it's about 105,000 cubic yards at a value, we come up with a dollar amount of about $1.4 million. So what we're asking the board to approve is let us execute this agreement with MVS, and they can go out there and clean the site up, get our road graded for a much cheaper price than if we went in first. And the biggest advantage is we have little or no liability. They have to clean it up through the state, and if the state's not happy, they have to do whatever. My fear is if we went in there, we do what we think, but the state says, well, it's not good enough, you guys need to keep going. So basically, we think it's a good deal and minimizes risk, and that's what we're asking for approval, is to execute this agreement. And then MVS would probably get started toward the end of this year, and they would basically submit invoices for progress payments, depending on how much grading they do. So we really, the bulk of this money will get paid in 2019. And that's when you see in the memo, I have funding for the 1.4 split between 18 and 19. Let me. So this is a blow-up view. So if we went in first, right now the existing right-of-way is, along the road. But if we went in first with the extra temporary easements that we'd have to acquire from them, we'd have to pay for this additional easement, and that is part of the negotiation that we threw in for them.
So you're getting the easements?
Well, we have the right-of-way, and we threw in the cost of the easements if we went in first, just to make it viable for him to be able to get out there and get the work done.
The biggest advantage would be then that he assumes any liability for something that's in that pile that he doesn't remember putting there.
Well, that was put in there. We don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
There's been borings, but pretty extensive research, but you never know what you're going to find. So like, between the fact that we're...
that time period, probably asbestos and all kinds of nice stuff.
Oh, yeah. So overall, we're thinking, like I said, to execute this agreement and pay him is a tremendous cost savings, and I think it takes away a lot of liability and risk on our part.
Yeah. Tom, you had a
So
question?
after the cleanup is complete, do you intend at that point to begin construction to finish the connection all the way?
Yes, the agreement says that we need to finish within 2 years of when he's done. We need to finish the road within 2 years.
Okay, so that's part of your agreement with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike, if I could, I've had a couple of friends who use the VA clinic quite a bit ask me why that one neighborhood was allowed to shut down a public road.
Which?
Is it Van Buren?
We're
basically where it ends now, there's like no way to go through.
Yes, so as a condition, we've shut it off until the road's complete, because it'll open
You
up.
talking about from the VA clinic going down the hill?
Yeah, there's that one neighborhood where the road currently ends that you can't go
Yeah,
through.
so the concern of the neighborhood is that until we finish the extension all the way to Fontenarrow.
People would use the road.
It's going to be a huge cut through, yes.
Yeah.
And that was part of what we worked with them, is that we would keep it closed until the road is finished.
Which is completely understandable. I mean, I understand the neighborhood's concerns, but it is a public road. So can I ask just why was everything taken into consideration as far as?
Well, there's no connection now, so yes, it would be handy if you could go to Van Buren, but I think we have to balance, the motorist needs with the neighborhood needs, and
Okay.
and that's why, and that was one of the big concern, and so I think that concession helped us gain support.
Did we
from the neighborhood.
happen to do traffic counts to know how much traffic was, normally bypassing? Because I know you guys do there's some of them being done now, the road counts. So was there any kind of formula used rather than just the neighborhood got upset?
Well, I think the concern was, and maybe the concern isn't as great now, but the concern was when we made this connection that we finished, and if we let them tie into Van Buren, that certain percent of people would avoid Fillmore, which used to be a mess, and come down, and that could be even if a quarter or half the people that are using Fillmore started going down Van Buren. That's a fair amount of traffic for a little neighborhood street.
Right. So it was in consideration of the fact that there was current ongoing Fillmore construction.
Well, even when we were talking before the DDI was even thought of, there was so much of a mess of traffic, and we were working on this, and the neighborhood knew we were going to extend Fillmore.
Okay.
I think they just said we don't want, until it's done fully, we don't want people bypassing Fillmore coming down.
Gotcha.
And that's why we made that concession.
Just to put it in perspective, the opening day of the road when we connect to I-25, it's going to be 17,000 vehicles a day. So it'll be
That's the number I needed.
It'll be a very heavily used road, and we can't put that through a neighborhood.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Joe?
It would just seem to me to be a basic safety consideration on the part of the city until that construction
You got some
goes
construction
through.
going on at the same time, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we could open it now. There's nothing going on, but like I said, I don't think we get 17,000 going down there now, but
But at the time, that's what was.
Yeah. That road won't handle 17,000. But
Mike,
Mhm.
I have a question. I want to understand. Is this going to cost us 1.4 million or 2.9?
1.4.
So
If we let him go before us, we're going to pay 1.4 as opposed to us paying probably 2.9, maybe more.
I just want to understand. Basically, he's got the liability.
That's a big,
Yeah, well, that's worth a whole lot.
Yeah.
Big trash.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Wait a minute, Gene?
What are the risks to the city of allowing the contractor to do this work if partway through the process he discovers that we have another Love Canal along that corridor and he no longer has the funds to finish the work and goes bankrupt? What are the protections for the city if he discovers a worst-case scenario with regard to mitigation of the landfill?
Yeah, so Aaron Egbert, City Engineering, Public Works. The risk to the city, we essentially will have the easements recorded so that we can go out there and do the cleanup work ourselves. We also have a reimbursement for reasonable expenses for cleaning up that right-of-way, which could be in the one, it's hard to tell legally what is a fair reimbursement, but we did put that in the agreement they'd be liable for that if we had to go do the work, which would probably be in the $1.2 million range. We'd put a cost recovery on their property. And if they walk away, then we'll just have a commitment to the voters to get this project done. And it's 17,000 vehicles a day on opening day. It's an important east-west road.
But if he's only submitting progress payments, he wouldn't get paid the balance of that money. So we'd have that money
It's only,
as
it's
well.
only on a percent complete, and we're holding back 10% retainage on every invoice that he's submitting. Rick?
It's probably out of my scope to ask, but I'll ask it anyway. What about mandating a bond as part of the agreement? Performance bond?
That's from the Music Man, isn't it?
Sounds like actually Hollywood, I think.
I guess I can, the developer's very committed to do this. He's entered into a $1 million agreement with CSU to underground the electric at a 60-40 split, so he's put hard cash down to get this project going. So I think he's motivated. We could, I don't know if we do bonds, we could always hold building permits or something like that. But we have lots of tools in the toolbox if there's a problem. But this is the best agreement we could come up with, and we've been working on it since 2013.
Yes, sir.
Are we going to, is the city going to be able to have quality control oversight on the grading to make sure they don't have to go out later
Yes,
and rework it?
We, the state is actually going to have people out there watching the cleanup, and they'll have to pass those requirements. We'll have somebody out there too during that, and then also when they start doing the roadway work, we'll have our own inspectors and CM people out there.
Okay.
So I think overall, we're confident this is a good agreement. I think there's enough tools, as Aaron said, that if something happens, we can still complete the project and recoup our costs. But he is very motivated also to get this done, so I think it's a good way to get this project. It's kind of been sitting in limbo for like 5 years going.
Okay. Number 2.
Okay. Next item is consultant contract with Tool Engineering to do some wayfinding, signing. So basically, they are going to be designing some wayfinding to get signage so that people can get in and around the downtown core in a safe manner. There's a lot of changes and new bike lanes and bike routes mixed in with the traffic. So this is just something that we think that I believe traffic's doing this just to get some safety and some connectivity, so that people know kind of where to go and where not to go.
Are you putting in additional money for more people walking with their head down on their cell phone, trying to wayfind their way around town?
No, I don't think we can engineer out stupid.
So agree.
Wish you could.
Hey, Mike, I noticed that your contract start date is February 2018. Have you already executed this contract with them?
Let me see. That might have been. I didn't. What? Has not. No. That was. I didn't see that. It would be whenever it's approved through October.
So it's TBD on the start date.
Yes. Probably June or July.
Mike, the wayfinding system is designed to help bicyclists find their way around? Is that my understanding from, it says bicycle wayfinding?
Mike, do you have? Well, it's not only bicycles, it's also people. So, because there's a lot of pedestrian. So it's cycling and pedestrians.
Okay. I won't go any further.
So we're spending PPRTA money to create a quote, an app that can be put on the phone?
No. This is just signage, hard signage.
Hard signage?
Yes.
This way to the new Olympic Museum, this way to Phantom Canyon.
And you got to spend $125, and I'm round numbering it, $125,000 to put up another $250,000 worth of signs around a core area of downtown. It is not defined. It is neither to the east, Wasatch, to the west, the railroad, or to the north, for the sake of discussion or Constitution. There's no definition.
I would, and I would speculate that the core area is described by the downtown business district, but I'm not sure. Let me get some, we'll have some more answers for the board. I'll take your questions and concerns and make sure we have somebody to answer those at the
Okay.
board meeting.
Mike, maybe I can interject. I did talk to the Downtown Partnership. They're actually the ones sponsoring it. It is in the kind of the Legacy Loop area. I should point out that wayfinding, it's more than just signs. I mean, it's really just trying to find, I mean, it's really directing cyclists and pedestrians where they want to go. This is actually consistent with the bike master plan that's actually been adopted by city ordinance. It's also part of the intermodal transportation plan, the bike master plan. This wayfinding is actually the top requests from cyclists as to distances and times to get to their destination. It's very important. It's a top request from cyclists. The Downtown Partnership is working with Tool to define, exactly what needs to be there. But to do it right, it does take some engineering effort to implement a system like this.
Why don't you go to the Downtown Partnership and get them to finance it, too?
And that's the other thing, too, is...
Well, wait a minute. This is a transportation system. It's like saying go down to the Downtown Partnership and asking them to put up stop signs and traffic signals. This is part of our transportation network. This is a priority for the Bike Master Plan. Again, it's part of the ITP. It's also part of the master plan for the Experience Downtown Master Plan, which has also been adopted by the Planning Commission, by City Council. This is a transportation system. And this is an important component of directing, people who use the downtown core for
What
transportation.
item on the ballot did you vote for this?
Wait, guys.
Don't get feisty.
This is in the traffic engineering pot that's approved by the budget and allowed into the city. So let's not get the bikes and the pro bikes and the anti-bikes. That's not our purview here. So let's keep it above board, no personal stuff going on.
Just a factual point, though. According to the last census, less than 1% of the population use bikes. So it is to me an equity issue when you talk about how much money is spent on less than 1% of the population who, and that's being generous, by the way, because the actual number is far less than that. But I'm rounding up.
Yeah, let me make a clarification. In the census blocks for the downtown core, it's actually about between 5 and 12%. So 1% is citywide, but for the downtown core, it's about 10 times more. And in some neighborhoods, up to 12%.
And I understand. I think it's great.
But let's not do the 1% thing, which is citywide. This is downtown
But
core.
everybody's paying for it. And that's the issue.
My concern is a little bit more direct in that this is listed as a capital expenditure. Is this part of some other master program that's already been approved under the ballot initiative, or is this a throw-in?
Mike, I would ask.
It's,
ask, what pot is this? I think that, knowing which one of your 12 program intersection improvement, defining which you've got intersection improvement citywide phase 1 on your memo. On your thing. So there is an overall pot of money for those kinds of projects, putting signs in intersections to guide bicyclists or pedestrians through the intersection to a location. That's the city's call as to what projects go in there. The voters approved a citywide and that fits in that category, then that fits in that category. So, any other comments on the specifics? It's $120,000 out of a how many $1 million budget? I was just looking it up.
11%.
Yeah. So.
Hey, Rick.
Any other questions? I don't want to put down legitimate questions about the project, but I would prefer not to get into an anti-bike conversation. Okay, Okay, no other questions, we can move on to number
Okay, so next two items, 3 and 4, are basically on-call contracts for traffic signal technicians for C&D Electric and Sturgeon. They will be, the typical $200,000 task order, not to exceed $2 million per year, but we're actually not assigning any dollar amount until traffic actually uses it or issues a task order.
So my question, Mike, on that is, when you hire a contractor to do a project, is this, just reading what was in the memo, is this just if it involves traffic signal electrician, the contractor doesn't include the cost of that traffic signal electrician in his bid, you're now going to pay for it separately?
Well, I think this is more, this is maintenance, so basically if something goes down.
This is capital.
Oh.
You got capital in your thing, so that's the reason we just,
Did I,
go ahead.
Yeah, the city typically has on-call contractors to do the city-funded signal installs, and that's what this is for.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, and they may be for mains too, yeah,
Okay.
I see that's conflicting on that one. But yeah, if we need help, because the city just doesn't have enough electricians, if we need help, we use these contracts to have them install or maintain or fix.
Okay, that makes it more clear, thank you.
Then the last item is the Cascade Route 9 from Cascade from Fillmore up to Winders and over to Nevada. We are using, we're putting in curb gutter and sidewalk and widen the road a little bit so that we'll put bike lanes in there. So the bulk of that has been funded with missing, well, it's actually a CDBG grant and transit grant, and we needed some additional paving, so we are using the on-street bike lane funding source to cover a little bit of shortfall on our paving of that road.
Mike, is this the project where the city's being sued, or is this a different
That
one?
was my question.
I don't think we're being.
Is this part of the old North End?
No, this is.
Okay, it's not part of the
No, we're
lawsuit, okay.
Okay, good.
So I think we've got about $800,000 in there, and it said we just needed some additional money for paving, so we're using the on-street bike program.
I appreciate the fact that you guys are widening the street, too. I think that's smart.
So I think, any questions on that one?
Okay, any other further questions for Mike?
Make a motion.
I hear a nominate, you're
Yeah,
moving?
I'd like to move to approve the 4 contracts as
Second.
presented.
Second.
It was 5 contracts?
Oh, 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, 5. I'm sorry, 5 contracts as presented.
Second.
Jones, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
1 opposed, 1 nay. Motion carries.
All right, thank you.
Dennis, El Paso County, new contracts.
And Dennis Barron for El Paso County. We have one contract to present. It's replacement of the Judge Orr Road box culvert. Got washed out several years ago. This is part of the fire and flood recovery funding. Was identified as a potential for federal funds. We've secured that, but we need the local match to do the repairs, and it's necessary to do this to protect the road. And we're requesting this be issued as a maintenance contract because it is maintaining existing roads and repairing. The road got washed out. The road's already been repaired, but this is to protect it in the future against similar situations. The local match for PPRTA is about $485,000. The total contract is $874,000. So we're looking for the PPRTA to contribute the local match out of our maintenance spot.
I move approval. I think it's smart and good.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. to approve this?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? So moved.
Get that federal money.
Yeah. How did I get two of these? Metro.
Sorry, I had a quick question to Corey before we got out of here. Who's next?
Transit.
Oh, transit, Brian? I think he wished he was.
Sorry.
Good afternoon, Brian Vituli, City of Colorado Springs Mountain Metro Transit, with your monthly transit report for April of 2018. For our fixed route services, we carried about 240,000 one-way trips, and we are seeing a decrease of about 4% over that same time period for 2017. For ADA paratransit service, we saw an increase in about 9.5% from April of this year to April of 2017. And for our van pool services, we saw an increase of almost 9% over that same time period. For project update, I just wanted to announce that we're going to be holding a public process for our fall service changes the third week of June. And we have here outlined the increases that we're looking to do. If you remember last fall, I was here several times kind of discussing with you, getting feedback on what our 2018 service improvements were going to look like. And the first phase of that was implemented with our spring service change. And those were mostly the off-peak service improvements. So we did some weekend service additions for routes that didn't have Saturday or Sunday service. Basically, off-peak service is something that we could do without ordering new vehicles. The increases that we're proposing for our fall service changes all require more vehicles, and we'll be getting in several this summer that will go out onto our new service. So what we're looking to do, and I should mention that this is all made possible by $1.4 million in additional RTA revenues from last year and some additional city general fund dollars. So we're looking to add 15-minute service on, if you can follow my cursor here, sorry this is a little small. Route 1 goes from our downtown terminal, and it's this blue route here, kind of a Cook's Tour into the southeastern part of the city, ending down here at Academy and Hancock. Currently, this operates every 30 minutes during the weekday daytime. That will have 15-minute service. Also, going from the Citadel Transfer Center right here at the Citadel Mall, this route on South Academy, Route 27, goes all the way down South Academy and ends down here at Pikes Peak Community College's Centennial Campus. That's also going to have 15-minute service. Currently, it has 30-minute service. Moving up to the north and the northeast, I'm sorry, before we get there, Route 18 is going to be a new route that we're going to start, and it's going to go from Boulder right here, Boulder and Platte. We have a route, Route 5, that operates currently now with 15-minute service. We're proposing a new route to go up Union, north up Union to Academy.
Good move.
Route 25 on Academy has 15-minute service. So we're filling in a huge gap. We have the Nevada corridor over here and the Academy corridor here, and we have no other north-south routes in that area. So we're going to fill in this gap with a new service up to Union and Academy. So that's Route 18. That will run every 45 minutes. And a pretty long process for these next two routes with Memorial North Hospital and Children's Hospital. We're going to be, we will now have a new mini transfer center at Academy and Union where Route 18 will end. We'll have a new Route 38, which will allow people to transfer at that transfer location. This new Route 38 will go up Union and then serve Memorial North and Children's Hospital. And Route 40 is a new route that will be connecting with the Voyager Transfer Center here off of Voyager Parkway. This new Route 40 will go up Voyager to Pikes Peak Community College's Rampart campus, which does not have service currently. So these are...
And it will just be an up and south Voyager?
Yes, yeah. It's just it's going to be timed to meet the Route 39 and Route 25 that ends at Voyager Parkway Transfer Center. And these are examples of really good partnerships that we've developed over the years. We have a College Pass program currently with Colorado College and UCCS, and PPCC was the one that we didn't yet. And one of the sticking points was, no service to the Rampart campus. So the way that's being handled is similar to CC and UCCS. All the students are given a $5 per student per semester fee. That gives them access to our entire system for that semester. And for a 2-year period, it's kind of a demonstration project, pilot project. For 2 years, the students will also be paying a $5 service fee that will help fund the new Route 40. And there could be some marketing opportunities, both with PPCC and Memorial and Children's, where they could have dedicated vehicles that are wrapped to advertise their services, bus shelters that say Memorial or Children's. So that could also help subsidize these services. And in addition to that, I believe either late April or early May, we received a Colorado Springs Health Foundation grant, a partnership coordination with Memorial North and Pikes Peak Community College to help fund these services for 2 years. So it's kind of all coming together. These will all be implemented this fall. The Pikes Peak Community College route will be actually implemented on Monday, August 27th, when their semester starts. But the other 2 new routes will start on Monday, October 1st. And this is also, something, even though it's about 3 years old, our 2040 transit plan, some of the main recommendations that came from that was to, improve what we have first. Let's really improve our existing system. But when there are opportunities to expand our system, let's try to seek those partnerships, because we really just did not have the resources to cover more geography. So this is a great example of implementing what came out of the transit plan.
Well, that Voyager Parkway up that way is going to open the door. There's a lot of industry. That whole Interquest Voyager area is growing like crazy.
Right.
You got New Life Church that could probably benefit from some type of weekend or Sunday service. So, that sets the seed and opens up for Lockheed Martin, for Ball Seal, for all of that growth and industry that's up there as well, too.
Right,
so
right.
That's a start.
Right. And I should also mention, not to get into too much detail, but in order to keep the costs reasonable and to keep everybody on board, these are the Route 38 and Route 40 will be express service, meaning there are going to be very limited stops. We're going to have stops down here at Union and Academy and at Voyager, but they're pretty much going to run direct to their destination. So there's not really going to be any intermediate stops. And that's, not to sound crass, but that's how we can get away with not providing ADA power transit service, because if we made this a full fixed route service, the costs would be much more.
Because that's a federal requirement.
It's a federal requirement, yeah. And we did receive concurrence or approval from the FTA to operate these as express services for this period.
Is there a minimum or a maximum? Could you have one other stop or 2 stops, or is there?
Well, we've already been asked, there's a new development being built right across from the Rampart campus, south of, I'm blanking, the road that's just south.
83?
South of Pikes Peak, or the Rampart campus,
Yeah.
whatever it is. There's another theater
Right.
going in there, so.
Right.
And they're actually, PPCC, since that's kind of their medical education campus, that they're going to have some facilities in that new development. So they already asked if, when that's done, if there would be an issue with putting a stop there. And, I think since it's pretty much still at the destination, I think we'll be okay with that. They're more concerned with putting more intermediate stops in between the origin.
I was just thinking
destinations.
about between Union and Academy and the hospital, maybe a stop at Union and Woodman or somewhere that would be halfway there. So there's a federal requirement, so you can't have any or you can't have some. What's defined? Is there 1, 2,
Yeah. Well, we've already gone there with the FTA, and we already had our stops located in that cluster around Union and Academy and up at Memorial and Children's and up at Rampart campus, and they signed off on it. And so at this point,
It's a start.
we're locked in for those stops, yeah. And when the Colorado Springs Health Foundation grant runs out in 2 years, the city's committed to incorporating those routes into our system, and so that's our commitment moving forward.
Okay.
And the only other proposal here for the fall service change is that we're adding a special fare 31-day pass. Currently, we have a full fare 31-day pass for $63. We do not have a half fare pass, and half fare is for youth, ages 16 to 18, for seniors and disabled passengers. So that will be offered for $31. And there's a list of our public meeting locations, 2 on Tuesday, June 19th, one at City Hall and the other at Library 21C, and the third on Wednesday, June 20th, at Pikes Peak Community College's Centennial Campus.
Are you seeing in other cities of similar to slightly larger sizes the same decrease in ridership as the economy gets better?
Yes. It's kind of mixed. I mean, over the last 2 years, I've been kind of blowing our horn, saying, the trend is downward in a lot of larger cities. Bus ridership has been going down, but 16 and 17, we really saw good ridership numbers. And so, now we're kind of stuck in a 3 or 4 month period with some decreases. I know, this time period is a little bit less than March, but we're trying not to be too concerned, and we're hoping to see, the trend kind of even out. And, as fuel prices could creep up, that could have an impact.
And with your initiatives, especially with the educational places, it may totally turn around, too.
Right, yeah. Yeah, so we're alert. We're trying to, keep track of that. No real cause for why it's doing that. We are adding more service, and we're in the summer season, which generally has, or is the more higher ridership months than the winter, but we're hoping it will even out here.
Okay.
Any other questions for Brian?
Hey, Brian, on what time on the 19th the public meeting is and where that is?
The first one is at City Hall from 9 to 10, and the second one is from 1 to 2 at Library 21C.
Hey, Brian, if I could, just before you run off, talking again about the eastern part of the city, mostly east of Powers, the folks out there have, and this is not a criticism because of the economic situation you guys were in, but that area of the city has been kind of neglected for a while. Talking, again, from like around Platt to all the way up around Woodman. Meanwhile, that area has also been expanding.
Right.
And we've added more family, many more family units, and it's continuing to expand now with the agreement on Banning Lewis. What kind of projections? I mean, I know we've got one route out there now. I think it's on Peterson. Is that right?
Well, we moved off of Peterson. We went to Peterson's Gate a couple of years ago.
Right.
Ridership was so low, so there was a Route 24 that served from the Citadel over to Peterson that was discontinued. But Route 23 here is what goes out Platte to the Powers Corridor. Mostly runs on Tut.
Okay.
Yeah, and then goes over to Morning Sun at Austin Bluffs and Academy.
Okay, and I guess now, because that's kind of a new route, we've had it for, about a year?
No, 23 has been going for at least 4 or 5 years now, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What have we been seeing with that? I mean, have we seen, now that there's several new apartment complexes in that corridor, have we seen an increasing ridership? Have we seen people trying to take advantage? I guess essentially people out there never even considered transit because it wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are we seeing that they're finding it an option?
Yeah, 23 has been it's been slow to grow, but it is steadily increasing, and that is I mentioned it earlier. It was actually funded through a job access reverse commute grant. So the idea was to to get people to work, and it was supposed to be a job-rich corridor, and but it really started off slow and continued to increase slowly. But over the last couple of years, we added weekday evening service and Saturday service. And
right. Maybe that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah. So, I mean, this could be a candidate, as I was mentioning earlier, for this, with the RTA budget amendment for Sunday service, to give it full service on 7 days of the week. Because, the jobs that are out there are primarily, service or retail. Yep. And those hours are not usually Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, and so that's what we've been hearing, and it was kind of the chicken and the egg. Even though some of the weekday evening and the Saturday service may not have been warranted, we thought it was the right thing to do because just because of that reason, that you put the service out there, hopefully people can then make choices and say, okay, this route at least operates 6 days out of the week. Perhaps I could take a job out here and have reliable transportation. If we give it Sunday service, it could really be the catalyst that could grow ridership. But it's also a tough route because it's really long. It takes 2 buses to operate. So, I mean, something we may look into in the future is to try to make it more direct, a little bit quicker ride, maybe having 2 separate routes operated, having better frequency. It could make it more attractive to riders because right now it's one of our 60-minute routes.
Well, and the reason I ask is, I get some anecdotal evidence from the families I talk to out there, but also just one that pops to head is a single mother who's a server, works in that corridor, does not have transportation.
Right.
And she now can rely on this service, but I don't want to see what's happened in the past is have that disappear.
Right.
Just as people are starting to actually discover that it's available.
Yeah. It is. It's an average performer. I mean, it's not certainly one of our
stellar
low performing routes, and it's not a stellar one, but it's steady, and we are patient with it, and we know that the potential is there for it to grow. So.
You got 2 huge apartment complexes going on between Stetson Hills and Dublin.
Right.
I mean, there's in the hundreds of units going in there, so that whole area is still growing.
Retirement.
On Tut.
At Tut, too, yeah.
Just north of.
Yep.
Right.
And right across,
Yeah.
and right across the street, there's another new complex that just opened within the last 6 months. That actually, there's 2 on that are on opposing corners.
Right.
So I mean, Tut now is growing and expanding.
Yeah.
So, hopefully that'll, I hope it helps, because that's an underserved area.
Right, yeah.
Okay, any other questions for Brian?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brian. Appreciate it.
Yeah, this is the second month in a row we've kind of picked on you. Okay, 7B, it's the status report. Does anybody want to go through this in detail, or is this information adequate to give you an update on? And this, for our newer folks, this, as discussed during Bev's presentation, there are some projects from PPRTA 1 that weren't quite complete. You see one status in her financial report that shows the status of the report from an invoicing standpoint, but there were still a few lingering projects, and so we asked the staff to provide kind of an update on those lingering PPRTA 1 projects, not in excruciating detail, but just where are they? Because as Rick pointed out, we drive through those and we see some of those completed, but yet they're not completed in our books and status here. So this was intended just to update the committee, information only on where we are with those remaining large projects. Some of them will go on for a little bit longer as they go through their punch list and their and whatnot. But is this the level of detail? I thought it was sufficient, but does this work for everybody else? Joan?
Yeah, I think it's great. Works for me.
Gene?
I'm satisfied with the level of detail, but I have some questions on the city side.
Okay, go for it.
Looking at what Bev presented on page 3 at the bottom, roadway safety and traffic operations shows nothing budgeted under the initial RTA for 18, and yet you say that there's money in there. Same comment for Pikes Peak Greenway improvements and the Austin Bluffs corridor improvements.
Okay, go to page 2, Gene. Those are the numbers.
Page 2 of what?
Of her financial report that she had earlier. So if you look there, capital projects, these are the projects we're talking about. So the roadway safety, there's 58,000 left that Is it 3?
Yep, that's what I'm looking at.
Go to page 2.
Of Bev's financial report?
Or, well,
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
it's 58,000.
Yeah, okay, I'm looking at, I must have got her. So basically, roadway and safety operations, there's 58,000 that traffic will use to do some intersection work. Woodman Road, there's 987,000 left according to her book. We'll finish that up. Is that the right one, Bev?
Okay, Mike's looking at a format that we use for the RTA board, and it's the format that I used for everybody at one time, but I was requested to use a different format for the TAC. So Mike's right, the numbers he's quoting are what's left in the overall budget for those projects.
Okay. So it's not a whole lot. Like I said, safety op is 58. Woodman's a little bit less than a million, but we're going to spend that out as we're finishing up here. Pike Street Greenway, there's 41,000 that they're going to use for the Greenwood Trail connection near Cottonwood Creek. They're going to be starting that work soon. Austin Bluffs, $46,000. We're going to turn that back into the pool. And then that leaves about $4.8 million in the Mark Scheffel. And I believe Rick attached the September memo that kind of gave our priority of what segments are going to attack, but that $4.8 million is not going to finish all of it. It will give status on that as we get better handle on the Mark Scheffel.
I guess I'm still not clear on why, if there's money left over in the initial RTA, that the sheet that Bev presented, which talks about initial items and shows approved budgets, adjusted, et cetera, they're not the same numbers.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but Is it the difference between the overall project budget and then what you're showing as invoiced? Or is it that there's been changes in the overall budget, the projected project cost? Because there is a difference sometimes between what we show as a project cost and what Bev has in the books as invoiced. So that's why I'm...
Well, also, this is RTA1, which is tracked separately. I'm not sure what...
On the bottom of page 3 on what Bev presented is RTA 1. Right here.
So look at page 6, because we're talking about the overall capital project budget. This is the annual budget.
Page 6 in your report, Bev?
Yeah.
This is 2018 approved.
Because we asked for a different format than what the board uses. Yeah, well, I don't know whether...
Yeah, this is RTA2, and the page, this is
Initial
RTA2.
A list capital projects.
But it's the initial list for RTA2.
The board report.
Let me look at 6 then.
Yeah.
And this is
RTA 2.
1, no, this is RTA1.
I'm in board.
How can I tell? No, that's one way, but... Okay.
While everybody's figuring
You're
that
okay?
all out.
Okay. My comment on the, I'm sorry, Cheryl, you were first.
What is the cutoff? I mean, I look on page 6, and I see a whole bunch of projects. Constitution Circle Drive improvements, it's at 99.61. And the same thing with Austin Bluffs Corridor, Nevada to Academy, and it's not included in your memo, so I'm not sure what the cutoff was that you're talking about on the memo, what's delivered in the memo versus what's delivered here.
I need to explain something.
Yeah.
So we get these cost shares after a project is completely finished. And they're cost shares from developers, CS Utilities, and some of the other smaller utilities, especially out in El Paso County. And like, I'm getting those right now. And this, like, say, Constitution Circle Drive improvements used to be 0, but we got a cost share. So that goes against that account. Now, he's completely done. He's not addressing that. He probably didn't even know about it. And so I book that, and it affects this report as of May 9th. And we're going to get some of those, and then eventually they're going to line item transfer the little bits of money that come into those accounts to maybe, like, say, just Mark Shuffle Road widening. But Mike didn't know that we got this Constitution Circle Drive improvement cost share, and we got this one for Austin Bluffs, Nevada to Academy. Did you know about that one?
No.
Probably not. Okay. So, because we literally just got those. So he was addressing, open projects. We're going to get these. We're going to get them for the next 10 years. So, because some of them are related to developers developing in the area, and especially in El Paso County, they might owe per lot.
Okay.
And so,
Thanks for the
so
clarification.
it's not exact. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so the numbers I listed are what we have on projects that we're closing out, and then there's a couple other that I didn't know about. So any other questions on the city one?
I have a question on whether you or Dennis want to ask, but it has to do with that Mark Shuffle Road Bridge or culvert. Is that a county or city, or is that one of your joint projects?
It's a city project. We moved the money to this. So North Marsh Shuffle
Right.
Got moved to the city for us to take care of.
Okay. So my question is that bridge over Sand Creek, went out there, looked at that. You had a discussion about that a while back. But is that bridge or that culvert considered an A-list project as just a subset and part of the content of Mark Shuffle North, or because it's not a specifically listed project on RTA 1, although Mark Shuffle North was a project. So,
Mark Shuffle North was defined from Carefree all the way to Woodman.
right.
It was very broad, so anything we do is considered.
And the
broad.
bridge is north of Woodman, so that's the reason I'm asking.
It's the Black Forest Road, it makes the 90
Yeah.
degree.
Yeah.
Or, did I say Woodman? I meant all the way to
Black Forest.
Road.
Black Forest,
So
okay,
that
all right,
whole stretch
okay.
is considered north of Mark
Okay,
Shuffle.
so this is just part of what is defined as Mark Shuffle project in
Yes.
the general form. Okay. Anybody have any questions about the updates for Dennis? He's here, so don't want to wait.
Dennis, I gotta ask you a question. We're still dealing with the Prebbles Metal Mouse issue on Baptist Road. Now, and I'm going back 10 years or so, when I was previously on the hack, we were dealing with the fact that Wyoming had the mouse delisted, and Colorado it's still listed?
Well, I think it's still listed, but it was certainly listed when we got the permit from the Corps.
Okay,
And
so
we have an obligation to revegetate
Regardless.
to a certain level, and we had a 2 or 3 year commitment to do that, and with the lack of moisture, some of the stuff didn't grow, so we still have some remediation to do to meet the requirements that the Corps put for this mouse.
This is important because it's what frustrates localities about the ridiculousness of the federal government mandates. This mouse has been determined not even to be a distinct subspecies. It's just another mouse, and we're having to spend a lot of money to mitigate and create habitat for this thing. And it's like a lot of the other federal mandates that you guys have to deal with, and you have my empathy, but this costs taxpayer money, and that's what really ticks me off about this kind of stuff. We're still dealing with this. Wyoming doesn't have to deal with it because it's been delisted in Wyoming, but Colorado still has to deal with it, and that's just ridiculous.
Better deal with it in Colorado, not just.
Okay, so any other questions on the project status of RTA 1? All right, let's move on. Thank you guys appreciate your time, and thank you very much for that information as well. Mike, you want to cover your change order? It's information only. Any comments or questions for Mike on the change order log? Seeing none.
All right, thank you.
Any questions for Dennis on the change order log for the county? Seeing none. Great work, guys. Thank you very much for that short report. Next item is the quarterly report. Any comments for Rick?
And you should have at your place, I handed out the Green Mountain Falls quarterly report, a one-pager that came in late after the packet went out.
And for our newer members, this quarterly report, Rick goes out and visits all the projects each month or once a quarter, includes them in this. This is a great reference for any constituent that's asking a question about something to go on. It's a very quick summary, not down in the weeds, but yet it gives you enough information to kind of know what's going on. So if you yourself or any of your constituents or council members or somebody are asking about something, this is a great first step. So it works out pretty well for that. Gene?
Quick thank you to Rick. I rode around with him yesterday while he did a large number of his quarterly inspections and really appreciate it.
Oh, good.
My pleasure.
Yeah, that's a great way to kind of see what happens and whatnot. So I make it a point to try to go by projects myself, to include crawling up in some culverts on a couple of them. But you know, just there's a lot of work that goes into this, and it's appreciated. So at least by me.
We came close to doing that yesterday.
Yes.
Any other comments or things on that quarterly report? So, item number 8, administrative actions and reports, recent board actions.
You have that in your packet. I'll be glad to take any questions you might have.
It doesn't mention Reb got thrown out, so it must have been a...
Oh, wow. Just a quick recap on the litigation resolution. We're back to collecting tax again?
So we've been collecting all along.
Okay, so now they're allowed to disperse it, or?
No, we've been getting it all along. It's, DOR has been collecting it, and we've been getting it since day one.
We just don't have to repay it.
Correct. Well, it's hard to repay because I went out and shopped and just to double check what the tax was, and so I spent 10 cents of tax. So it'd be hard for somebody to pay me back a dime. So,
All right.
So yeah. Any questions about the one pager? Well, it's 2-pager, but the highlights of what happened at last month's board meeting.
Okay. Next one.
I would like to hear the backstory online, about you being thrown out.
No. All right, I-25 gap.
Oh, congratulations
excuse me.
on a clean audit, by the way.
I got one question, I'm sorry.
Sure.
On the back page,
Yeah.
item 14, executive session, it was held. What was that related to? Just, usually you say it's related to something.
It's related to number 15. So it was the board's discussion about what to do about whether or not to ask the DOR to resume collecting the sales tax on retail marijuana establishments in the PPRTA area. Because last year's Senate Bill 17267 accidentally killed all the RTAs and the RTD and some other special districts' ability to collect a sales tax on retail marijuana sales. So we lost that piece of revenue for a year, as well as all the other RTAs and RTD and some others. So a Senate bill this time in 2018 session, passed and the governor signed it. The legislature declared that they wanted to reestablish they wanted to correct their mistake and allow all the RTAs and the RTD to begin collecting that sales tax again. But each RTA and the RTD and the other special districts that are impacted would have to vote to ask DOR to begin collecting that after the legislature fixed their mistake, and this was that vote. And they heard from the attorney in a closed executive session, and then came out and in open session voted a resolution to ask DOR to start collecting that tax again.
So, Rick, did they actually change the rate, the tax rate, or did they still collect the taxes and just consumed it somewhere else?
I'm sorry, it's the same rate. I missed your last couple
collect the tax
words.
for a year, did they reduce the rate?
No.
So did the state actually collect the money and just put it somewhere else?
No.
Or they just quit collecting it, period, on those businesses?
Quit collecting.
Okay.
For the year. Yeah, from approximately July of 17 until approximately July of this year.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
That's a good question.
You want to cover I-25 gap real quick?
Yes, the highlights memo is in your packet, and then additionally, you probably saw in the Gazette the same thing that I handed out at your place, which is the announcement that the feds approved what's called an infra grant for $65 million towards the GAP project. So the state had previously committed to $250 million. This is, but said the total price was $350. So other sources other than the state had to come up with 100. So 65 would be feds, and the feds came through, great, leaving a balance of 35. El Paso County went to the voters and asked for excess revenue of 15. Douglas County approved 10, and then, of course, the voters, the PPRTA voters, approved up to 10 of any capital revenue in excess of the budget for 2018 and 2019.
I have a question, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, Tony.
So I know they've been doing all their public meetings on this, and they've been calling them public input meetings, but it's really been public information meetings, right? Because everything I've heard about their input they've gotten from the public is, hey, don't toll us, and they keep saying, oh, well. So is that still going to, yeah, it's public output meetings, good point. So any wavering on that at all that we're hearing?
No.
Why bother with public input meetings if they're not going to take input from the public?
Because it's the federal process. The federal process of the steps, not the outcome.
Second opportunity to duke the public.
Oh, yeah, you're just the public. You guys don't know
We
anything.
could have an hour-and-a-half meeting on just this subject alone.
There is one thing. I was just doing the figures in my head. Douglas County, which a few years ago, and is still one of the fastest growing in the country, but was the fastest growing county in the country a few years back, they're paying $10 million.
Yeah.
You know exactly where. I can tell by the smile on your face. El Paso County put in 15, and the PPRTA voted up to 10, so 25, we'll just say, potentially.
For the 2.5 miles that's in El Paso County.
Thank you.
2.5 divided by 18 is, yeah, that's where you're headed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think much of what I've been hearing from the public down here is can't be said. But I don't see anybody really doing anything about it. We're just kind of, okay, well, it's something we just have to suck up.
Well,
All right.
Farmer did have a comment in today's Gazette about that they're still trying to work on that issue, and I'll just leave it at that.
But let me just, I agree, but let me just add a point that hasn't, the word that hasn't been said, and that is the word maintenance, ongoing maintenance. It's not for the construction. The tolling goes towards the ongoing maintenance of the highway that would otherwise be taken and out of CDOT funds. And so it's not, the tolling doesn't go towards construction cost.
However,
They made that very clear.
However, the EA, page 4-4, lines 17 and 18, said that the tolling will be used from Monument to C-470, even though it's only collected on the 18-mile gap. And all the lanes are north of the gap. So all the maintenance money will go to the north of the gap.
And it's independent tolling companies that set the fee and make the determination.
They're an enterprise of CDOT.
Yeah.
So.
And I brought it up because I'm seeing if there's just, there's got to be, because CDOT's not listening. And
No.
Tony made the point. They're just like, tough, deal with it.
In our $25 million, they don't think there's room to do the county line bridge. Well,
And I'm wondering, it's just,
no, they said they don't think there's any money to do county line bridge, so
Southern
gold plate those 2 miles that are in the county.
But it's also inside the existing right-of-way, which speeds it up, otherwise going external with it. So, there's a lot of limiting factors.
There's no truck lanes.
So,
I was trying to find out if there's anything that we as citizens, do we really have any power? Because it doesn't seem that we can do anything about it.
You can stop the project under.
Because the commentary, I mean, we all went and commented, I hope.
Yeah.
We all went and commented in the public comments, but, you know, I'd be surprised if they even publish that stuff. I mean, they got to publish some.
Well, actually, I
they
did
have
get
to
an
publish
email
some of
back,
them, but,
yeah.
There's a provision that El Paso County just started with, and I forgot the numbers. It's a 4-digit number, 1410 or something like that permit. They can pull it, and then the road won't be done in the 2.5 miles here in this county.
They don't, it's all within CDOT right away, county permission.
right.
It was in the
There is a
agreement.
way. I have information not only from an attorney, but also a CDOT engineer. Okay? Now, having said that, that permit could be pulled, and they couldn't do anything in here. So you'd, instead of having an 18-mile bottleneck, you'd have a 2.5 to 3 mile bottleneck, and everybody be ticked. The thing about Douglas County versus El Paso County, and this is in defense of what our politicians did, we've got a population in the city alone of 500,000. We put more people on that road, a whole lot more than Douglas County. And
Most of the people are in Castle Rock who already have one.
Exactly, yeah.
I'm saying-
Yeah, they have already got their connection.
So, and there's another thing, just for your information, they can't put that in as a toll road and then remove it. So that's what, part of why they chose HOV and toll. And when I say that's a combination. So there's a lot of nuances to it. My biggest objection, you basically lied by omission. The policy was set a long time ago. You can start going north of Denver on I-25 when you weren't even out past 88, about 88.
Wadsworth?
And you started seeing HOV lanes, and they started adding tolls. And you can't change a toll lane to a free one either. I don't understand that. Something to do with federal money, so go talk to the feds. I'm tired of attorneys.
But,
You can't.
but, okay, I have 3 or 4 comments to share. Number one with Tony's, what CDOT has said, that you've probably heard, is to make it 4 lanes, they need to purchase extra right-of-way, therefore they would need to go through the whole federal acquisition process, a long and involved environmental impact statement, EIS, instead of the shorter EA, and out of the corner of my eye, I see Scott nodding his head. It would, what CDOT has said is, it would delay everything for 2 years.
As opposed to the situation now where in 10 years we're going to have the
Well,
exact same problem we have now,
yeah.
and it'll last for another 30 or 40 years.
The CDOT, the I-25 GAP project manager, John Hall, is scheduled to be at both the, next Wednesday, at both the morning PPACG meeting and the afternoon PPRTA board meeting, if you want to come listen and maybe make public comments.
What time is the afternoon meeting? 2:30?
Not 9 in the morning for PPACG board and 1:30 PPRTA board, or both. Now,
I just find it
there-
interesting that the federal government is allowing them to build or expand the capacity on the highway, and they'll buy 18 months to 24 months of acceptable service levels on it, and then it's failing and categorized basically the same as it is today, which is service level D. So we're spending all of the money and getting nothing. If they take out the HOV lanes and toll lanes, you get almost 6 years of service level C or better on the roadway.
They're looking too short-term.
No, they want the money. It has nothing to do with short-term, it has to do with money.
Again, it's not planning, they're, yeah.
What was your third point?
CDOT has an enterprise fund it's sort of a department in CDOT, but it's HPTE, and I think it's High Performance Transportation Enterprise.
Enterprise, yeah.
So under Tabor, the constitutional amendment from 92, that allows, if you have an enterprise fund, then that's independent of all Tabor requirements. So CDOT has set up a department, but accountingly, it's an enterprise fund for Tabor purposes. That's the tolling department. HPTE is, and the tolling guy, the tolling department head, makes presentations to the I-25 Gap Coalition meeting, the El Paso County and Douglas County, plus the municipalities. I've been going to those for the past year and a half. But the CDOT's HPTE specialist, who's a very sharp guy and is very skilled at defending tolling.
He would be.
Presents all of his PowerPoint presentation showing how the tolling works in the US 36 corridor, and is working on I-70, and going to work on North I-25 and all. So
Yeah, New York, Delaware, Connecticut, they would argue.
So, but just to inform you that CDOT has this separate enterprise fund department called HPTE. Yes, Tom?
Yeah, I would say that comparing Boulder residents with Colorado
Yeah.
residents is apples and hubcaps. Because
Not so much anymore.
their perspective is electric is wonderful and ours is more power the better.
And I would like to just, and then we got to move on, is that the comment in the article today and others that tolling reduced traffic on Highway 36. Well, you've got alternatives in that part from
Right.
Federal Avenue and all those other places that we don't have alternatives here. And this is an interstate versus a state highway. So there's a lot
It's a
of differences, but
disingenuous
yet they
argument.
still use that as a baseline for comparison purposes.
Yep.
And I brought it up in one of their forums, was it comparing I-25 to Highway 36, other than an example of how tolling might work to reduce traffic in an area. But if you're trying to compare the two roadways and how they're used is entirely, as you say, apples and hubcaps. So it's off.
It's
my
it's
last-
just disingenuous.
And they're also using Dr. Cog results for downtown Denver statistics and highway versus urban, between urban center traffic, so it's a little bit different.
And I'm not defending CDOT, I'm just explaining some facts. But it seems that CDOT puts a high premium on the reliability.
Right.
Which is a tolled lane, is if most everybody stays out of the tolled lane, then if you need to catch that flight, or you need to go to a soccer game, or you need to get to a date or a party, CDOT is putting up the highest priority on reliability, not capacity.
Okay, we beat that horse, and we're not going to win. But it's a good intellectual conversation, get everybody's point out. Okay, Rick, you want to cover any on the Walmart suit thing about it real quickly, whatever? Anybody?
Does anybody, any of the new folks need 2 minutes of background on the Walmart lawsuit? Yes? Okay. When the voters approved the PPRTA in November 2004, effective January 1st of 2005, they put in granite the geography of the PPRTA. And one of the members, one of the four founding members, was unincorporated El Paso County. But there were 5 original municipalities in the county that did not put it on the ballot, therefore they weren't in. Fountain, Monument, Palmer Lake, Callahan, and Rama. Those 5 weren't in originally. Of course, Rama joined later. But you still have the 4. So the issue is down at Pikes Peak Community College on South Academy, City of Fountain, a non-member, did a new annexation, flagpole annexation up I-25, and they annexed that northwest corner of I-25 and South Academy, that whole northwest corner, for Walmart, Sam's, and a big mega commercial complex. It was Walmart and Sam's were surprised when DOR showed up and said, you need to start collecting the Pikes Peak RTA tax. So Walmart and Sam's, City of Fountain filed an amicus brief in support of Walmart and Sam's, but Walmart and Sam's sued PPRTA and DOR, so they're suing the state and saying a non-member municipality, when it annexes a PPRTA member, which happens to be unincorporated county, annexes a piece of the unincorporated county, that the non-member can extinguish the taxing authority of the unincorporated county piece of property that the voters approved in 2004 and set the geography on that date in granite. And then the non-member said, no, we can annex and we can extinguish your taxing authority. You can go away. And the state district court said, no, the tax stays, the RTA tax stays. And then Walmart and Sam appealed to the State Court of Appeals and a three-judge panel, and they unanimously said, no, the PPRTA tax stays. It was approved by the voters, and the legislature in the 1997 RTA law allowed for RTA boards to decide, once they're established by the voters, any additional property or deletion of any property had to be done by the board, only the board. Nobody else can extinguish the RTA taxing authority.
That was renewed in 20.
So
Wasn't that just renewed?
Which would have seemed to have been common sense.
If you have 1,000 attorneys, why not?
By this time next month, you should know whether
Yes.
an appeal has been filed.
To the Supreme Court, yes.
Right.
June 28th is the deadline.
The Colorado Supreme Court.
Pardon me?
Okay, so any other questions on that?
Move adjournment.
All right, so we have, wait a minute, Rick's got something?
Communications.
Communications, I was going to say we do have communications, yes.
Number 9, any agenda topics for next time?
Yeah, any agenda topics?
Okay. 2 communications. Do you have, that just came in from the printer, the 2018 annual report that you've seen, but not in hard copy. I have spares over at my table if you want some. I have hundreds of spares upstairs if you need more. I'll be delivering them all over the metro area, libraries, governmental complexes, chambers of commerce, etc.
Thank you for doing that, because that is an additional.
Yes, and we need to do the ads in the paper now too.
Yes.
And then lastly is to remind you that next month's meeting, that normally would be on the 4th, is that you picked the 5th, Thursday the 5th.
And there will be a fifth.
There will not be a 5th on the 5th, no.
Speak for yourself.
All right.
Well, some of you youngsters don't even
You got anything else, Rick? This Rick has something if you're done.
Yeah, I'm done.
Just real quick, Kono is moving from their Cascade address to Patty Chewett Shopping Center on the North Hancock. And so anybody who would like to carry some boxes. No. But anyway, they will be moving up there, and that will happen on the 25th of June. So we'll have a new location.
Any other questions?
As we're continuing to look at what to do up north, one of the things we found interesting is that in the 80132 Monument zip code, 80133 Palmer Lake zip code, there are about 32,000 people. There's 54,000 cars. Yeah.
That's interesting.
I know one garage is at least 4. So, okay.
I was just going to say that.
Any other members have any communications? All right. Well, thank everybody for being here. Thank you for your time, and we'll see you next month. Have a great